guest tonight is Dr. John Zubizarreta. He's professor of English and director of honors and faculty development here at Columbia College. The 2010 Carnegie Foundation, is it CASE or CASE, U.S. professor for baccalaureate colleges and a former CASE professor for South Carolina. He's also the winner of several national and international teaching awards. He's written books, journal publications. He's done just about everything. I want to read you something that I think is very, very interesting. He sits on editorial and governing boards of several educational journals and organizations, but he's also an avid telemark skier and a former 6-time national whitewater canoe champion, a moonstruck husband, which is a wonderful person to be, and a doting father of 2 girls. So our guest tonight is Dr. Z. I'm not going to keep trying to say Zubizarreta, but I'm going to run out of luck in just a minute. Tell me about where you were born, your life growing up.
My parents are Cuban, and they immigrated from Cuba just before the revolution, when Castro took over. And they came to the U.S. and settled, of course, in New York City, where all immigrants pretty much always end up when they first come over, at least in that period of time. And so they settled in Harlem, on East 126th Street, right practically underneath the Triborough Bridge. And that's where I grew up, in Harlem, in Manhattan, in New York City. And lived there till I was, I think, about 16 or so. And then we moved very briefly over to Union City, New Jersey, which is really a dump. You think Harlem's bad. And then we moved from there to Miami, Florida.
So you got back more to the Cuban roots.
Well, of course, everybody knows that Miami is Little Havana. You go there now, and you'd be hard pressed to find stuff in English. I mean, billboards are all in Spanish, TV shows are all in Spanish, radio's in Spanish, food's all in Spanish, café cubano.
Good food.
Yeah, I was 17. It was right when we moved from New York City over to Union City. And before we moved to Miami, that was the first time I ever had a cup of what we call American coffee y'all drink. I was 17 before I had that. And when I drank it, I thought it was swill. I said, what is this stuff? Threw it out, it's like water.
Yeah, they're much weaker than the Cuban coffee or anything else. Okay, so tell me a little more about your parents. What did they do? Were they professional people?
No, not at all. They're poor, immigrants. My dad's family were tobacco plantation workers, and my mom was a little bit more elite. Not even close to middle class, but at least they had a home, and they lived in Havana, on the outskirts of Havana. My dad was, a hillbilly out in the country. So how they met, I've never gotten that story. Now, you just reminded me, I need to dig into that. How did they ever meet? But they met, and they eventually married. When my dad came over to the U.S., and then he sent for her. They were poor. They were poor people. And my dad worked as a dishwasher in a restaurant that was under a hotel for all the years that we lived in New York City. And my mom took care of us, and she also worked doing various things. When we moved to Miami, my dad had a much better job. He worked at a knitting factory, and he would go out and get the boss and the other workers lunch and stuff like that, and bring it back. And my mom also worked at a little factory. You ever see those movies or pictures of all these women huddled over sewing machines in a big factory,
line shops?
Yeah, well, my mom did that. We didn't have a whole lot of money, but we had plenty enough. Everything.
And how many kids in your family?
I have a younger brother. He's 4 years younger than I am.
Was education important?
Very important. My parents always said, as you often hear, I'm sure you all have heard it too, the education is the key to life, having a good life. And just like most cliches, they exchanged the same cliches with us. You know, you need to have an education. It's the key to success, and we want you to have a better life than we've had. You know, and I never understood that because I thought we had a great life. You know, what did I know?
I think, though, for many parents, they see things obviously differently than we do as kids. And if you feel secure and comfortable and you've got food and clothes, you've got a good life.
Yeah, right. I agree. But no, they always thought that education was extremely important.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Catholic school, kind of course, you know. When we moved to Union City, that was the first taste I had of public school. And again, we only moved for like a year and a half before finally coming down to Miami. But I did my 10th grade in public school in Union City, and it was quite a shocker. You know, I was used to those nuns. You know, we really did have nuns. I mean, we didn't have civilians teaching there. It was nuns. And I still got the scars on my knuckles. And talk about cliches, you know, that's a real one. That's not a cliche, that's true. I mean, I got smacked on the knuckles one time because I got a C on a test that I took. The nuns wouldn't stand for that.
Hard judges.
Yeah.
Well, what did you like in school most? What interested you in school?
Girls? Not really. Not really. I didn't like girls. No, well, I didn't mean to say that.
TMI.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean to say that. No, that was just joking. But what did I like best in school? You know, I don't know. I think I was. I know this sounds kind of hokey and maybe a little even false, but I really think. I really do think. I really think that I had a destiny, and the destiny was to be what I am today, to do what I'm doing today. I mean, I've always wanted to be a teacher, always. And I can remember as far back as 6th grade, Mrs. King, the dreaded Mrs. King, English teacher. And I have no idea why this is true. I don't remember anything about her class. I remember what she looks like, and that's it. But for some reason, I do remember that. And maybe that was the beginning. I don't know. That set me on this path to become an English teacher. And then, of course, in 7th grade, so how old would I have been in? No, I'm sorry, it was in 9th grade. How old would I have been in 9th grade? 14. Oh, so the hormones were raging, right? So I remember Miss Bronstein. Ooh.
Pretty lady, huh?
English teacher. I was in love. And I thought, now I know I want to be an English teacher. But, you know, from there it just went on. I mean, my 11th grade English teacher, Mrs. Ferry, was wonderful. She taught me American Lit. And she taught me American Lit. She was such an outstanding teacher that maybe my colleagues will shame me for this, but I still use her notes when I teach American Lit here in college. That's how good she was. And then she handed me over to a junior college teacher in Miami, and that junior college teacher changed my life, as teachers often do, we hope. She had a son who was my age, and I graduated from Miami-Dade Junior College, and then I went to go on to my junior year. Actually, I didn't think I could go on. I thought, first of all, I didn't think I could go to college at all. And it was Rosemary Ferry, the 11th grade teacher, who helped me find a way to get to junior college. And so I went to junior college, and there I met Margie Buer. Interestingly, my wife's name is Margie. But Margie Buer was the teacher. I love stuff like that. You know, I teach stories, so that's part of the story.
Connections.
Yeah, but Margie Buer was my English teacher at Miami-Dade Junior College. And she had a son who was my age. And remember, I had gotten into junior college by luck. So I figured that was it, that's the end. No more college for me. But she said, oh no, you need to get a degree. So she went to the dean, who was retiring, and wanted to set up a little fund, a scholarship fund for students to enable them to go on beyond Miami-Dade. And she went to the dean and she said, you need to give that scholarship to Jim. And so he did. And so I used that money to go on to my junior year. And so she passed me on to a couple other professors that she knew who were very good friends of hers who were teaching at Florida Atlantic University. And then we stayed in very close touch, Margie Buer and I. I practically lived at her house. I spent more time in her house, even nights, than I did in my own house. So she was like another mother to me. And then her son was killed in a motorcycle accident. You know, this is so silly. I don't know, I tell this story hundreds of times and I still get emotional about it. But she used some of the insurance settlement to provide a little fund so that I could go on to finish my senior year and then go to graduate school. And so she literally changed my life, right? She literally changed my life. And then she also passed me on to a teacher that I had in my senior year, Harry Antrim, at Florida International University, and that's where I graduated from. And he was a T.S. Eliot scholar. And so he really turned me on. I already had a little bit of an affinity for T.S. Eliot. You know, he's real highbrow, really hard poet. But Margie turned me on to Eliot, and then he was an Eliot scholar, so he really nurtured that in me. I eventually did a PhD dissertation on Eliot because of all of that. But he, in turn, he had been a professor at University of Virginia, and there were several young new faculty members at University of Virginia that were wonderful teachers and scholars. And so when Harry Antrim moved to FIU, he recruited some of these other folks to help me get into USC here in Columbia, because they now had been stolen by USC from UVA. So I don't know, my life, you know, you ask me about education, you ask me about how I get here, those kinds of questions, and I don't know, I've sort of been handed over, one person to the other, just handed down. I don't know why.
And have you maybe seen something in some of your students, and you have felt that need to be sure that this person moves to the next level? Obviously, Margie and some of those saw that need in you.
I do. I don't think there's anything nobler, more important, maybe even sacred than teaching. I think it's an endeavor that has extreme consequences. And if we don't take those consequences seriously, I think we're falling down on our job. And so, yeah, I do. Some of my students are out there, and you know that I'm always, you know, pushing you and getting you into things you don't want to get into. But I think that's what our job is, to make you uncomfortable. If we don't make you uncomfortable, if your teacher doesn't make you uncomfortable, you need to complain. I'm serious.
I know you are. They may not. Okay, so what choices do you think that you made that were important for your career?
Well, for one, I'm going to just go range from serious to ridiculous, okay, in no particular order. But one was, you know, really staying clean, staying focused. You know, I mean, I never, you can imagine, okay, I grew up in Harlem. I was a mid to late teenager in Harlem, and there were bad boys all around, and there was lots of trouble going around, and I was a member of a gang. Oops, I probably shouldn't have said that, but I was a member of the Spartans, and some of those Spartan boys, they did bad stuff, but I never did. But I had to belong, because if you don't belong, then you're really out, you're in trouble, you know. So I felt that pressure. I had to belong, but I never did anything. You know, I would always just hang in the background when they would do stuff. like break windows and stuff like that. I would just sort of like stay in the background and sort of look the other way, and then I'd run with them as if I had done it. But yeah, I stayed clean. That was really important, I think, decision on my part, and it was conscious because I saw a lot of bad stuff. So I stayed clean. And then I was serious about education. I wanted to learn. The teachers, those nuns. I think this came from my Catholic school background. Now they were severe. They instilled that in the students, in me. You got to take education seriously. You can't mess around. Another thing probably. I was into athletics. I didn't do a lot of the stuff that other kids were doing my age. I stayed focused. I was an athlete. I was a wrestler in high school and college. I was a runner. I won marathons. I paddled. That was it for me. Just staying focused. And I believe that athletic background helped me intellectually too, because it helped me realize, what's important. Focus. Stay with it. Don't back off. Don't give up. Keep going.
And to be an athlete and a scholar, you have to learn time management.
Of course, yeah, of course. And then another thing that I made, that I decided to do along the way, and I got more serious about this later on, but to really love and respect my teachers. And I always tell my daughters now, one who is a freshman in college, I tell her, build relationships with your teachers. You won't believe how important that is. Just go to their offices, introduce yourself, tell them your name. Of course, unlike Columbia College, where she is, which shall remain unnamed, I guess, but it is in this state, her teachers don't give a damn about her. I'm sorry for the language, but they don't care about her. They're never in their offices. They don't want to talk to her. They don't respond to emails. As a teacher and a parent, really gets me. Really makes me mad.
Is it a big school?
No, it's not a big school. But I always say to her, make relationships, because that'll make a huge difference.
It's one of the things I always
Huge difference.
One of the things I always liked about Columbia College is that the professors were on campus. They would sit in the canteen. You could have a cup of coffee with them, and they were people, not just
Sure.
teachers.
Now that has its downsides.
Well, yes,
I won't lie about that too. Sometimes a place like Columbia College, everybody's into each other's business a little bit too much. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Okay, what's the best piece of advice you ever received?
Best piece of advice. Be honest. Just be honest. I remember when, amazingly enough, I could tell you how that applied in, heady ways, like in my education, in my family. But even in like training, like training for these canoe races and stuff. I always wanted to be honest about what I could and couldn't do. If I knew that there was something lacking in my performance, in my training, I wouldn't hedge about it. I'd say, okay, I'd go to somebody for help. I'm really having trouble mastering this particular slalom move here. Can you help me? And I'd always ask for help. Be honest, I think that's the advice I ever got. Margie Muir, my teacher, always would say, be honest. Be honest. Be true.
Is there any advice that you received that you wish you had listened to?
Advice I wish I had listened to. Have babies sooner. Margie, my wife and I, we waited 10 years before we had a child. And now all my friends, they're all retired and enjoying life and taking wonderful trips, going skiing and this and that. And, I want to do that too. They say, oh, get over it. You did it on the front end. I said, yeah, but I want it both ways. I want it both ways. Yeah, I actually wish I had had children earlier. so that they would be now more grown up, and it would be nice to see them, you know, in their professional and family lives, and, you know, I'm going to be like an old, decrepit old man.
It'll happen entirely too fast. You'll wish they were back home.
I don't know about that.
They may be back home, you never know. Okay, at this age of specialization and all, what's the advantage of a liberal arts education?
Oh, Lord. You know, Dr. H and I, and maybe some students in here, just recently got back from the Sigma Tau Alpha conference in Portland, and one of the speakers there was brilliant and passionate and articulate about the importance, the consequential, the critical importance of being a liberal learner, of having a broad liberal arts, particularly in humanities education, because you know he's a professional writer, and and you hear all the time about engineers and electricians and rocket scientists in NASA. Astronauts beaming down from outer space saying, you know, that one of the most important things that made a difference in their careers and their experience of being in outer space was not the physics that they took, you know, at MIT. It was their English courses or their history or religion courses, because here they are in that infinitude out there with this dark, nothing but what Robert Frost called desert places out there in spaces where you can't see anything. And all of a sudden that's humbling. That's humbling. And if your mind is narrow and your education has been narrow, you're not open to these mysteries and this magic and the meaning that lies in everything. You know, the meaning that's deep embedded in everything. And that's what a liberal arts education gives you.
I absolutely agree. Do you have a bucket list?
A bucket list, yeah. I want to see somebody come forward and give $100 million to Columbia College.
Oh, amen. Yes, we'll take that.
That's what I would like. And you know why? Because we're coming full circle here in a way. Because you deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve it. Right? And this place means a lot to me. I've been here 25 years now, I think. And you know, this isn't a brag, but I've had lots of opportunities elsewhere. And this place is special. I mean, this is a special place. It struggles. It's got its challenges. Sometimes more than other times. But it's a special place. And I would love, on my bucket list, I would love to see this college get the recognition and the resources and the reputation that that it deserves. It's a great place. Just selfish bucket list items. I want to go back to Alaska. I spent 4 summers in Alaska, just fishing, mountaineering, skiing, paddling, goofing off, like mosquitoes, almost getting eaten by a grizzly bear. I have the scars on my back to prove it if you want to see them. Yeah. You know, I'll tell you that quick story. I jumped over the log, and I tripped over the bear that was sticking on the other side of the log, and the bear stood up and grabbed me, and proverbial bear hug, and so the claw marks are on my back. But all I could remember was when I was in Florida that the Seminole Indians would wrestle alligators, and they would rub the bellies of the alligators, and the alligators would just, go like this. That was all I could think of, so I started rubbing the chest of the grizzly bear, and he actually relaxed and let me get, and I dropped, and when I hit the ground, I ran like crazy, and I looked back, and that bear was just standing there going, I teach English, remember?
And creative writing.
See, now, if you didn't have the value of a liberal arts education behind you, you probably wouldn't have gotten it.
If you could have a do-over in life, like maybe not telling that story, what would you do over?
Do it all over again. If I could do it all over again, okay, you mentioned that I've done a bit of paddling and racing. Much of that I did with my wife, Margie. We were partners. I raced single. I raced with a male partner. I raced with her in the mixed class at the national championships and U.S. team trials and so forth. And I can remember one time when we were racing for the gold in the 1979 national championships. We had practice runs, and everybody was missing this particular slalom gate that was in the river. Big rapids all around. And we got there.
Yeah, it's mine.
We were practicing the slalom course, and so far we were the only ones that were clean on the course, and all our competitors were watching. And I felt like, we were smoking them, that we had intimidated them because we were doing so well. That the competition, we smoked the competition right there. We didn't even have to race. I figured we humiliated them. So we get to this one gate that everybody had been missing, and I said to Margie, we're going to make this gate, and that's it. That's it. They're going to pack up and go home. So we get to this gate, and she made a little teeny little mistake. And so I paddle in the front, she paddles in the stern, in the back, and I turn around, and I go, why did you do that? No, we messed up. There's big rapids all around us. And she just took the paddle, and she put it down on the canoe, and she said, if you're going to talk to me like that, I'm not going to paddle with you. And I'm sitting there on the rapids, waves flushing in the boat, and I'm going, pick up your paddle. She goes, I'm not paddling with you anymore. And so everybody, of course, then, was saying, yeah, there you go, the Zubies. There's John in this usual state of mind, yelling and screaming and being, obnoxious. And I wish I could take that back. Yeah, I wish I could take that back.
Because you might have gone ahead and won anyway.
We did win, but I just wish I could take that and probably many other instances when I think that sometimes all of us speak before we, think, and especially to, loved ones. I think it was the only time I ever really yelled at her in a real forceful way.
I heard
Her response, of course, was, not playing with me anymore.
I heard once that if we truly did treat our family like we treat strangers, we'd be a lot nicer too.
Yeah.
Okay, if you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go and what would you do? Other than Alaska, because you've already said you go.
If I could go anywhere in the world and do whatever I wanted to do? Well, let's see. Other than Alaska. Sometimes, we tend to, I think our imaginations want to go, way afar, and if it's one thing I learned from studying Robert Frost, who was the other person that I concentrated my dissertation on when I did my PhD, if it's one thing I've learned from studying Robert Frost is that sometimes the most beautiful and the most precious is right there around you, So if I could go anywhere, I would go back up to the Chattooga River, and I would spend a couple of days on the river. I haven't had that opportunity in, almost since I've been here at Columbia College, because this place just eats you up. And I haven't had the chance to go up there, but the Chattooga River is a beautiful, beautiful river. If you ever have the chance to go up there, especially paddle it, it's just beautiful. It's on the Wallace Scenic Rivers list. My friend John Lane, who's an English professor at Wofford, wrote a book about the Chattooga, called Chattooga,
Right.
River of Deliverance.
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful book. But it's a gorgeous river. And I haven't paddled it, haven't been up there in, oh God, years and years and years and years and years and years. And I would love to go there.
Is there anything about you that nobody here would know that you're willing to tell us?
I never inhaled.
Very good. Very good.
You have to remember, I grew up, during the decade of love, peace and love. My favorite band is the Beatles, of course. I mean, is there any music after the Beatles? I don't know. Is there?
Nothing you'd recognize.
Yeah, right. But yeah, something special about me that nobody knows. Huh. I really can't think of anything. Sorry.
We might come back to that. Okay, we're gonna do a couple of quick ones. What's your favorite word?
My favorite
Word.
word? Surrender.
What's your least favorite word?
I could get in trouble, so I won't say it, but I would say autocratic.
What turns you on?
Turns me on. A really good flunk.
Oh, okay. All right, what turns you on?
And a real good woman who made it. Sweet and soft and silky. That's what a flunk should be. Soft and sweet and silky. Oh, very fun.
What turns you off?
This one I can answer genuinely. One thing that really turns me off is people who think they know everything and have all the answers, and they're closed to creativity. They're closed to alternatives. Yeah, closed-mindedness, I suppose, really turns me off.
What sound or noise do you love? They're written here, I didn't make them up.
You didn't make this up, huh? Sound or noise do I love? Okay, sure. Can I give you two?
Sure.
Okay, one is the sound of rushing, water and rivers. I love that sound. I really do. When I do all this paddling and when we went to Alaska, you're in the most pristine, remote areas. We would have to take a plane that would drop us off, and then 2 weeks later, trying to figure out where they're going to pick us up. And we'd be in the middle, we'd be 700 to 800 miles from anybody, from the nearest village. And all you could hear is the sound of that river. Amazing. The other sound I love is also kind of sporty related, is the sound of skis over snow. Yeah. Love that sound.
Okay, what sound or noise do you really hate? Chocolate blackboard?
No, that doesn't bother me so much. But what does bother me is the sound of squealing brakes on a car. I hate that sound.
Yeah, particularly if it's coming from the car right behind me.
Yeah.
It's a little scary. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt? If you suddenly couldn't teach anymore, what would you like to try to do?
Well, I would love to go back to being a whitewater canoe guide and raft guide. It's a good life.
Yeah. That's what you love to do. I don't think I would enjoy it at all. I just wouldn't do it. What profession would you not like to have to do?
A higher education administrator. I've done that, and it was not fun.
The paperwork will kill you, boy. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I don't know, I suppose that, you had a good run, you gave it your best, you made a difference, you changed lives, come on in.
Okay, it's your turn. We're gonna bring the lights up, and if you would speak loudly so that we can hear you, and if you would tell me your name and then ask your question. A few questions. Yes.
My name is Mary Ann, and I'd like to know that since you were raised in a Cuban family, what kind of traditions and things you have in your family and you still use today?
Well, one of the things that I think is true of all ethnic cultures is that the importance of food. And for us, it's always been food. Cubans, food, Cubans go together. And so just traditions, black beans and rice and yuca and roast pork at Noche Buena, which is before Christmas. And
Baked plantains.
yeah, plátanos. So a lot of our traditions really always sort of were centered on food. And I can remember weddings, a lot of food, always food. Just a lot of sort of food events.
That way in the South too, trust me.
Yeah.
Who's next? There got to be a few questions out there. Yes.
My name is Caitlin. I was wondering why you had in mind that you weren't going to go to college.
Why I felt that way? Well, just basically because of finances. My parents didn't have any money to pay for college, not even the junior college, which was incredibly cheap. I mean, back in those days, it was, the tuition was something like under $200, and they couldn't do that. So I went to work as early as my junior year in high school, and I worked for the Florida Power Line Company at night. I worked the emergency service shift, and that was actually a godsend because emergency service in Miami, Florida pays well. And there were many, many, many nights when I worked double time and even triple time, which means making triple your salary, your hourly wage. And so I was able to pay for my college education pretty much. And Margie Buick came through and helped me finish, and then she helped me go to grad school. Didn't pay the whole thing, but helped me get started. But yeah, it was finances, because Lord knows my parents, I actually remember one time hearing I've only heard my father cry 2 times in his life. Once was when my brother got arrested for possession of marijuana. And the other one was I heard them in their bedroom and my father sort of whimpering because I was saying that I was going to try to find some work because I wasn't going to be able to finish college. I wasn't going to finish college. And I remember him whimpering over that. It's the only 2 times I've ever heard him cry. So they thought it was important, but they just probably he felt guilty that they didn't have enough.
Next.
Yes. My name is Joyce.
No choice.
Hi, how are you? Could you talk a little bit about growing up? Were you growing up in a Spanish-speaking community? Did you grow up bilingual, or did you grow up maybe speaking Spanish? Was the name you were in Spanish-speaking, and it was like a little little Cuba in New York?
It was mixed, actually. It was East 126th Street back in those days. Was mostly Hispanic. However, there and of those, a lot of them were Puerto Rican and Cuban. And then there were some Italian families and Polish families. Those were the primary ethnicities, I think. We lived on a block where almost everybody was Hispanic, Puerto Rican or Cuban, and then there were some Italian families mixed in there. The woman who took care of me, I remember when I was little, when my parents off working, she was the superintendent, or we called him the super of the building. She took care of me and my little brother when he was born, and she was Italian. But I grew up bilingual. Yeah, I suspect I grew up hearing and speaking Spanish first, and then once taken out of the home, babysitting and school, then I picked up the English, and then I can't. Sometimes I can't turn them on and off. If I'm thinking about eating black beans tonight, I might start thinking in Spanish. And if somebody says something, is Emmeline here? Emmeline Garcia? Emmeline. So for example, if I see Emmeline and she says, "Hola, Dr. Z," and all of a sudden, I just start thinking in Spanish and respond in Spanish, and even though there may be English speakers around, I can't turn it off. It just goes back and forth, back and forth. That's one of the marvels of being bilingual. It's really pretty cool. It was mostly Cuban and Puerto Rican with some Italian, some Polish folks, I remember. And it was quite a depressed neighborhood. What we used to do to cool off in the summer? This is disgusting. The fire hydrants on the corners. And remember the neighborhood, okay? And we would, as the kids, we would go to the fire hydrants and we would open the fire hydrants illegally. We'd bust them open with these big wrenches, and they would flood the gutters of the streets. Remember where we are, okay? Flood the gutters of the streets, and we would run inside, put on our bathing suits, and then we would lie down in the gutter on our stomachs, like this, and let the water rush over us like Superman, flying through the air. And God knows what was in that water coming out of those gutters. But that's what we did.
There are so many things that are so unhealthy now that so many of us lived through. Now, God is watching over us, trust me. Someone else? Yes.
What do you recommend someone do that wants to teach English but is stuck doing something else, but has a passion for learning English and teaching it to other people?
This is the question of the hour, right? The question of the day. Today is the question of the day. You asked for my 2 cents, right? And I'm entitled to have 2 cents. You'll get different 2 cents from other voices, but okay, my 2 cents. When my advisees, come and consult with me about, I really love English. I love the discipline. I love reading. I love literature. Blah blah blah. But my parents, they don't want me to major in English because
What can I do with an English
blah
degree?
blah blah. What can I do with an English degree? Which I think is the most fallacious reasoning and the most destructive question to ask. Because anyway. So my 2 cents is, as Joseph Campbell puts it in a lot of his work about mythology, follow your bliss. Follow your bliss. I had plenty of peers in graduate school who were this close to finishing their PhD in English, who were advised by my own PhD advisor, advised one of my friends in the PhD program to get out and go study law. Go make some money, go study law. And he told me the same thing, and I said, no thanks. I don't know, maybe I'm a Pollyanna, but you know, I figure things will work out. You could, if you want, you make your own choices, you make your own destiny. You can affect that even though you have maybe a destiny inside you. You can still affect it, you can still mold it, you can still shape it. So I would say follow your bliss. I know that runs contrary to even what we hear at Columbia College today. You know, get ready for jobs, prepare yourself for jobs. But I have a job. So all I ever did was major in English. I don't know. That doesn't resonate. I don't know, but
Well, but it might very well, because you do have to, you're gonna spend an awful lot of your life working in whatever you work. You need to love it to some extent, or plan to be miserable for most of your life.
well, why not do both? It's not an either or. You don't have to be either an English major and love what you do and love your, follow your bliss. You don't have, or get a job,
But
be
you can find a
productive
job.
and be a job. I mean, it's not an either or, do both. I mean, one of the great 20th century poets, was a doctor. So, or Wallace Stevens, arguably one of the top 3 or 4 poets of the 20th century, was an insurance agent, for crying out loud. That! But there he was, making money hand over fist, and being one of the greatest poets of the century.
Anyone else? Question? Yes.
My name's Hannah. You mentioned earlier that you worked through college, and I was curious, how do you think one should go about balancing like immediate needs, like money with things that like education, or how do people go about affording college? People who do have to work.
Well, I wish I had known the answer to that earlier. It happened to work for me. It happened to work out. But of course, be a good student and earn scholarships. That's one way. My youngest daughter, bless her heart, I love her to death. She's a freshman, and she hasn't quite figured out yet that college is not a social event, or at least not all entirely a social event. But once you figure that out, and you really, really get serious about your education, I don't mean that you have to be, ivory tower nerd. That's not what I'm saying. I mean, I know you're young, and I know you want to enjoy life. I did. I had a very fun life going through college. But I knew what was first. And if you have that mindset, then you can earn scholarships, and that'll help. And the other one is, I know you're really not going to like this answer, but loans. I can't for the life of me figure out why there's so much resistance to loans. Because I can't think of any loan that would be better used than for your education. I really can't. I mean, when I look around and see how much people are spending on loans for cars, or cell phones, or computers, or for accounts, Facebook accounts, and all this stuff, all that's money too. Redirect it. What's important? I don't know. That's why we need a donor to give us $100 million.
So everyone could
Yeah.
just concentrate. Yeah, I would not have made it through Columbia College without loans. My father had a heart attack the year before and there was no money. That was it. You had a question?
By the way, I had tons of loans going through college, and I paid them all off. I paid them off. I doubled up on payments once I got a job, and I paid them all off. just go back and read Sophocles' Oedipus, you know. I mean, how much of who we are and what we are is a matter of choices and the consequences of those choices, and how much of it is a result of some master plan out of our control. I don't know. That's the question that Sophocles, Shakespeare, Jesus, Muhammad, the Buddha have all asked. Who knows? I can't presume to know the answer.
Are there any more questions?